Thank you guys. Hello and welcome, and thank you guys that are here on campus with us. Thank you, obviously, everybody who's online as well with us. I am the director for advanced recording here at Full Sail University, and we are going to have the honor to talk to this panel about the evolution of the studio. So let me introduce these guys real quick. Down on the end here, we have Clayton, who's the 2014 Hall of Fame inductee. Carlton, sorry. I knew I was going to do that. Demo, who is a 2013 Hall of Fame inductee. And Leslie, who is a 2010 Hall of Fame inductee. So you have the best of the best here to kind of discuss studios, where they came from, where they're going. What we're also going to do is we're going to do this as a lot more discussion-based. So we've got a couple people that are going to run around. We're going to kind of real quickly go down the row and have these three guys kind of tell you where they started, studios, that kind of thing, real briefly, and then we're going to hit questions and let you guys kind of drive us wherever we're headed. Cool? Yeah. All right, so let's go with Carlton first.
Sure. I graduated here, 94 recording arts. Immediately upon graduating, jumped in my Honda CRX, drove up to Atlanta and started interning at DARP Studios, Dallas Austin Studios, and was assisting Leslie. So he and I worked together for a long time. We were talking the other night trying to figure out how long it was, and probably at least a good 6-7 years. Yeah. And then we were still kind of in the same studio working on projects for another couple years after that. But as Leslie kind of got more into the mixing, I started kind of jumping into his recording spot, and he went on to just kind of almost all mixing, and I was staying in his recording spot. Then I worked with Dallas for quite a while in Atlanta, then went on to do other projects there in Atlanta, and brought me here. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Demo?
What's up, y'all? I'm Demo, recording arts 2001. After graduating Full Sail, I went down to the Hit Factory in Miami, where pretty much started at the bottom. Did general assistant to assistant, engineer, mixer, producer, worked on my way up to A&R, executive VP of certain labels, and producer. I do a bunch of things nowadays. And yeah, that was pretty much my evolution.
Leslie.
Hello. I attended Full Sail in 1991/92, graduated in 92. Yeah, old school with it. So as soon as I left Full Sail, I drove my, you had a CRX, what did I have? I think I had a Acura at that time.
Integra.
Yep, Acura Integra, and I drove up to Atlanta.
That's a good assistant. He remembers what kind of car he
Yeah,
had.
that's what I'm talking about. See, look at that. And drove up to Atlanta. I was an intern at DARP. Started my career at DARP Studios, Dallas Austin Recording Projects, for those of you who didn't know what that meant. And just kind of worked my way up in that system. And, of course, had the opportunity to work with Carlton and a few other great assistants along the way. And eventually branched out from DARP. I went over to Patchwork Studios, where I was for another few years, almost 10 years I think I was over there. And then now I'm got my own room over at Akon's facility, and I just do my thing. I work mainly with a lot with Pharrell, not mainly, but a lot with Pharrell, and just kind of evolved into the mix engineer that I am now. I started out, like I said, interning, recording engineer, and then just kind of worked my way up into the mix world, and I think I'll stick with this mixing thing. I think it's going pretty well so far.
So Carlton, are you primarily recording and mixing, or are you just strictly mixing
I'm
now?
pretty much mixing now, in which I actually like to record. It's fun because sometimes you get a little lonely recording. It's fun being autonomous, but I don't miss waiting and staying up all night recording. But I do miss the recording somewhat because there's times where, man, I wish I would have recorded that vocal because I know I would have done it like I wanted it to be done. But that being said,
I think every mixer kind of goes through that moment.
I do mostly mixing now.
So in Demo, you're kind of you like producing. You like to be a lot more involved, I think, with the projects.
Yeah, I've just evolved over time. Like for a while when I first became an assistant and I decided, I'm gonna be an engineer, I just wanted a track. I was like, I wanted to be the recording engineer because I get to be with the artists and I wanted to build that rapport. And I was like, I never want to mix. That's overrated. And then I mixed, and I was just like, man, being quiet by yourself was really dope. So I was like, man, this is awesome. This is what I want to do. Yeah. And after a couple of years, I was like, oh, I want to go back to working with artists, but I don't want to record. So then I started producing. And then I worked a lot. I worked with Timbaland for about 10, 12 years. So I did a lot of records with him. So I got, the opportunity to work under a great producer. And working with him, I got to work with other great producers. So I got to pick up a lot from them. Nowadays, I'm more into doing more of a behind-the-scenes executive kind of role. That's more what I've been doing mostly these days. That, and I'm a consultant by trade, so that's really what I've been doing. That's my evolution now.
Yeah, awesome. So everybody that's up on this panel came from the traditional role of basically starting at a studio, recording, going into mixing. Obviously, most people will dabble in producing. Some people, like you, went forward with it. Leslie obviously loves the mix thing, and I think kind of you're in the mix thing at this point. Are you dabbling with the producing yet, or?
No, I've never really got into the producing. I tried to do some bands like that here and there, but never was my cup of tea. So.
With the decline of the major studio, which all of us came up in, how do you guys feel like the future is for because most of it was handed down, whether it be at the Hit Factory, whether it be at DARP. I mean, we all got to learn from somebody else who was already doing this, where with these studios closing down, people having less interaction with the talented guys, the guys that are making the records that people, that the interns or assistants are listening to. How does that change the game for these guys when they're leaving, in 2015 and forward?
These guys got to be more resourceful, and they got to figure. It's funny because, and Demo actually touched on this earlier, and it kind of resonated with me when he answered a question. A lot of times, students and we interact with y'all and we come here to share knowledge and but we can't tell you everything. We can't give you all the answers. And it's not that we don't want to give you all the answers. Sometimes the answers are subjective. Sometimes it's about what works for you and what fits your character. And so I could sit here and tell you my story all day long and tell you how I came up and hopefully inspire you. But at the end of the day, what are you made of? Go figure it out. Figure out how to really make your mark and get into this industry. And just like Darren just pointed out, it's different now. And studios are different, the size is different. Before we were all working, it would be Carlton in one room and me in another room and Demo in one room and da-da-da. Now it's Carlton's at his crib and we live in the same city. I haven't seen Carlton in years. And, you know what I mean? And, so now we have different, and we all had the benefit of establishing a foundation early in our careers and blah, blah, blah. But you guys, it's a different world for you guys. And a lot of it is you got to figure it out. Be resourceful. And some of you who have heard me speak before, I'll go off on you about being resourceful. And, pick up your phones and Google something and look something up and,
Hey, look, I'm going to be real talk with y'all. When I was here, they was giving me the same spiel. Oh, and the studios are closing. And I saw studios that I was working at closed down, like the Hit Factory in New York closed down, Sony closed down. It was like the end of the music industry. I have never had that problem. I'm still busy. I always work at a studio. So people say that all the time, but they were saying that in 2000. Right. And I never saw that. I never had that problem. So if I never had that problem, there's no reason why any of you shouldn't have that problem. So you can hear and focus on what they're saying, like, oh, it's all going downhill and this and that. But the reality is, if you're willing to put in the time and do it, ain't nobody gonna be able to stop you from getting that. So it's all that stuff is what it is, but there's two ways to look at it. Every major 5-star studio that closes, there's two small room facilities that open.
Exactly.
So, like I said, I ain't never had that issue. So people like the industry's hurting. I'm like, I'm not.
Right.
So ain't no reason why y'all can't be in that position. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's no different.
You got to put the work in.
Oh, without doubt.
So before we go to questioning, what about the transition from, and I'm using analog as a loose term, but the SSL consoles and mixing or large format consoles to mixing in the box? I mean, that's probably one of the more pertinent questions about everybody moving into the box. Carlton, are you?
So what is your exact question about?
Are you in the box mostly?
Oh yeah. Of course, I've been in the box for a while there, and even after working in the box for a few years, I would get into the studio, and I was like, no, I'm going to work on the console today, and I would start to do it, and I know this is not going to work, and I flip back. So I've tried to revert back to the console, but yeah, I think it's going to kind of be here. Working in the box is here to stay, although there's tons of hybrid variations, and you go into studios and people are doing. I think it's kind of back to like in the 50s and 60s when people were building their own consoles. And there wasn't an actual process of how to record yet. Everybody kind of did their own thing. Every studio had their own custom console. I think it's going to be that way for a while. Everybody's going to have their own little vibe, how to work. But yeah, I'm in the box, and
I'm staying in the box. I'm never coming out.
Yo, I'm never going in the box.
That's
Like they did this on purpose. But
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why I did that, because I'm much on the same
Man,
with the audio tempo. I mean, you
say so. If y'all get a chance and y'all get the choice, obviously if there's no choice and you got to do that, great. Be great at that. But if you got a choice, man, come on. You gonna sit behind that or like, it just looks better. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it does.
I mean, think about it. If you went to work and you had to sit at a desk and you had a little computer, or you go to work and you in the enterprise, like it's like a whole different ballgame. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna do that.
It definitely is a thing, but it's just the convenience factor and what the demands of labels and whatnot.
So does being, I mean, you're obviously involved a little bit more as a producer too. So does that have an impact on, you two guys are mixing?
Oh no,
so
it definitely has an impact.
There's a call where demo you can basically, I mean, you can write it out as the way you want.
No, and I'll say this on that point, on the point he just made. There's definitely people that don't work with me because they're like, okay, we might be able to afford him, but we can't afford how much it's going to cost to put him in a place to be able to work on that. So there is a catch-22 in what I do, where he has more flexibility in what he does. He could pick and choose what he wants to do, and I'm a bit limited in that standpoint because I'm doing it this way because that's my preference. I'd rather not do it. I'd rather not do it at all if I can't do it my way. So that's the catch-22 to it. But, it's either or. It's not that I can't do it. I just don't want to do it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump into questions. Okay, so if you guys could raise your hands, that's the easiest way for us to find you guys. So who's got a question over here? Yep, that's the first hand that went up here. They're going to come with you, Mike.
Don't fall, please. Slow down. It's all good.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to meet you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge to all of us. My question is for you, Demo. How do you deal with record labels and maybe, I don't know, clients that want to work with you with your way of working, but they can't afford paying a studio? Would you work with them and you just say no? Or how do you deal with that?
That's a really good question, actually. I'm at a point now in my career where I'm very picky. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really have to either like you or it has to be a number that I'm just like, okay, I'd be an idiot not to do that because, it's something that's ridiculous. Everything has a price when it comes to a project that you're just like, damn, I'll do that. At first, it was like $500. Now it might be a little bit more than that, but it is what it is. So I try to be flexible if I like the project or the people involved in it. If I don't, I'm not flexible. That's pretty much sums it up.
Okay, another question? Go ahead, just stand up for him. No, get the mic to you.
Oh.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and my question is for Mr. Carlton. You said, you mentioned when you were talking earlier, you said that there were demands from record labels, and my question is, does that hinder your creativity, or does that limit the time that you have to work on projects? And to piggyback on what he said, like, how does that differ when you're working with individuals? Does that help your creativity more, or does it just not?
No, it's not a demand that hinders creativity. It's just stuff, they may come back and say, okay, the mix is great, but we need stems, or we took out the person doing the rap and added somebody else because we didn't want to pay them, or now we can't clear the sample, so we had to replay the sample. Can you pull the mix back up? So if they've booked the studio out at $2,500 a day, and we have to go back and book that studio again to pull the mix up, they can't really do that. But if I can just double click on the session and they send me the sample replayed, we can pop it in there. And I'm gonna charge them to like remix that sample or whatever back the way it was, or and copy the original sample. But It doesn't hinder creativity. It's just, stuff that the label may have not taken care of beforehand, or any kind of any change really that's difficult to do by a traditional recall. So,
How do you guys think the use of the word producer in all of your careers have evolved as well? Because that's a big part of the studio business. Is this word is changed substantially in the last decade or last few years?
well, I mean, I always consider a producer. I think Demo, you described it. I like the way you described it earlier in our little listening sessions. It's the creative force behind the record. I always think there's a track maker, and then there's a producer. Traditionally, a producer is like the person that would hire all the musicians and everything. I think the producer, I consider a producer the one that puts the record together and is kind of like orchestrating everybody in the studio, musicians, artists, everything.
And I think over time, especially in the urban world, how the lines got blurred, no pun intended.
Oh man.
No, not gay. I think what happens is you go from, the creative force and hiring musicians, and then you had this influx of the creative force also being the musician. And so then the younger generation started seeing, oh, the producer is the guy who actually makes the beat. And it's not always synonymous with, it's not always just because I'm the creative force or because I'm making the beat, I'm the creative force. It kind of merged into this world of there's beat makers and then there's producers. And, sometimes you see people like a Dallas Austin who can do both, and you might get it twisted and think that's what all producers do. They
Right.
all do the beats and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes we've kind of learned the traditional way and know that sometimes a producer is just the one who hires the musicians. So, sorry.
Demo, you're wearing that title, and have made some incredible records, under that title. How does it affect you when you see, somebody come into the studio, maybe interning or assisting, and immediately their first thing is, I want to be a producer?
Yeah, our grass is always green on the other side.
It is.
It's a lot of responsibility. Sure, but it's like you got a lot to learn. It's not. I'm still learning now, and I've been at it nonstop. And I've made a lot of records where I've been the executive producer, where you're just not the producer on a track. You're overseeing multiple producers and working on one cohesive unit, and that's even more challenging. So it's like seeing that and seeing all those personalities. It's definitely there's an art to it you're always developing, man. You can't. There's not enough time in the world in a lifetime to really develop that to its full potential because it's endless. The way the creativity flows when you're producing a record, and then when you're working with multiple producers in a cohesive thing, it's a lot of work. So hey, man, more heads to them. But usually when it's that, they're usually like, yo, man, you gotta hear my beats.
Yeah. Right.
Here, play it. Let me hear it.
We have a question in the back over there.
Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Kevin. I'm in the music production program. I was curious, what kind of tips do you guys have for like a producer that's just starting out? Would you recommend picking one thing, like a niche, something that you're good at, and just working on that? Or if you're just starting out, should you try to do everything you can? I got like 6 different projects I'm working on right now. Would you recommend doing that or focusing on one thing if you're starting out?
I would definitely recommend focusing. If you're doing 6 different projects, but they're all kind of related in the same genre, then that's okay. But I'm one of the people that thinks you should definitely not try to do a lot of things. You should pick one thing that you're good at and really make yourself the best you can be with that particular skill.
Yeah, you can't be good. You gotta be great. So if you focus on 6 things, they're not. As good as you can be, they're not all gonna be great. So I'm from the school. You just do one thing and make sure it's great. And then, if later down when you're closer to finishing it, you want to start something else, that's cool. But you have to get the ball rolling on one thing and finish it.
And when you focus on one thing and be great at it, and I touched at this morning with a group of students at breakfast, when you focus on one thing and be great at it, it creates the platform for you to do other things. And think of it in a simple context. When any cable company, any local cable company, they're a cable company, but they offer they offer internet and phone service. But their brand is a cable company. That's what they got great at. And no matter what they offer you, the internet sales might be more popular than cable, but they got great at being cable. They were established at being a cable company, and they're always going to be referred to as a cable company, even if they're only selling you internet and phone. And phone is the least popular, but you get what I'm saying? Brand yourself around something substantial first, and then you can start branching off into the other things.
Cool. I'm going to go to a question back here, and then we'll come up.
Hi, this is a question for all three, so you guys can share. There's in the songwriting business, for someone who wanted to maybe put their song out there, or even into the beat making business, besides publishing companies, what is the best way or another way that you can send the songs out there to those who can make a decision whether to fully produce them or not, without putting yourself out there as an artist, or people thinking that you're an artist or something else, but an actual just songwriter? Do you get where I'm going at?
A lot of that is based on, in my opinion, a lot of that is based on the genre of music that you're talking about, because the approaches are different in different genres. I've seen, obviously in the R&B, pop / hip hop, let's just say R&B / pop world. Sometimes, traditionally over the years, we've all seen labels will put out a who's looking list, and they'll say, okay, so-and-so is working on their album right now, and they'll solicit songs from all the songwriters in the industry. It doesn't really work like that in the country department or in other genres. So a lot of it is tailored to the genre of music you're referring to. It works differently, and for instance, on an R&B or a hip hop album, you might have 10 producers, one producer doing each song, or one producer doing 2 songs, another producer does 3 songs, In other genres of music, it's usually one producer on the entire album. You know what I mean? So your approach is based on your genre.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll go up front.
Good, this guy. Yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Sam. Mike, Demo, you mentioned earlier how nowadays you're picky with who you work with, and you can do that because of the work you put in. But your first time turning something down, you're this young, hungry producer or engineer, and you're an intern, and someone finally lets you into some sessions, and you're getting work. Yeah. So when it's time to turn something down, was that an easy process for you, or?
Oh no, I had to turn it down because I physically couldn't do it. Like there wasn't time that when I first turned something down. Trust me, I wasn't turning nothing down. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I got $200. I got 1 hour.
Right. Like, and this question's for all three of you guys. Like, what was it like turning your first, project down because you were, too busy or for whatever reason? So.
Yeah, it sucked. I didn't really.
I kind of felt like, oh man, I turned that person down. They're never going to call me again. But I think this also kind of creates a perceived value. Like, oh man, they're so busy, so they must be really good. And I'm gonna, and of course they call me back again at some point. But they just knew I wasn't available at the time. A lot of times, if they, man, I can't do it for 2 weeks. Like, oh man, I really need it done. But then they'll wait to get you after those 2 weeks.
My first difficulty with turning things down was when I was making the transition from a recording engineer to a mix engineer. And for me, I felt like my path was I needed to establish the perception of I'm a mixer. And I realized how artists would work with recording engineers, and they would have a certain respect for them, but they wouldn't let them mix their records because they were the ones that tracked it. Yeah. So I wanted to separate myself, and I wanted to be a mixer, and I was tired of tracking, and I wanted to mix. So I started turning down tracking set. That was the part for me when I was turning things down, and I was like, man, I just missed out on the check. But there was a bigger picture, and I wanted to be a mixer, and I wanted to be respected as a mixer, and I wanted to establish my brand as a mixer. So I had to start turning down tracking sessions, because when people would come through, see me tracking, they wouldn't let me mix their records, and
Plus, it's also like when you get to a certain point. Let's say you work on. It don't really got to even be something major, but if you're working on, let's say you're working on somebody who puts out a mixtape, and the mixtape gets received by 1,000 people. He moves 1,000 units on that mixtape. So, and you have a good rapport, and you really like doing that. And then comes so-and-so who ain't never put no mixtape out, giving you half the money, and you're like, it's going to take me more time to do that, it's not really, you could be focusing on the dude who sells 1,000 mixtapes, helping him get his next mixtape out that's going to generate you more. You see what I'm saying? So that's the kind of stuff, that's kind of like a mid-range problem. Like when you've already kind of been getting stuff going and you kind of have, all right, well, I figured out how I can make a little bit of money here and there. Like, how can I make more money from this project? So that's the kind of issue you'd run in. It's like time management. Like, all right, you only got so much time, and you want to put your best foot forward, so you want to spend the time working on that kind of stuff. So
Opportunity cost thing.
yeah.
And then as you get older in life, too, different things are important to you. I mean, now I have kids, I have a family, and so for me, I don't have time to be mad. I don't have time to be, unhappy at work.
Yeah,
So
unhappy at work.
I turn down sessions for other reasons. I mean, now I'm to the point where I've put in my time, and I can say, you know what, I don't feel like dealing with DJ Young ignorant today. And, I want to work on something nice and go home and play with my kids. And, you know what I mean? So there's different stages in life, and the reasons morph into other reasons as you get older. And as you get older, your tolerance for BS is real small. You just don't have it.
Go ahead.
Hey, gentlemen, my name is Michael Mays, and I'm graduating music production actually next month. Long, grueling process. But
Congrats.
as far as, like you mentioned, with the blurred lines, I've been reading those articles. I'm a big into sampling and things like that. But for all three of you, as far as music, you got the line of creativity, you got the line of paying homage. What are your interpretations of that, like as far as where music's going? And then is it more like blending genres? Like, how do you feel about what makes music hot? Is it based on the creativity, or is it really just paying the homage? Like,
No, it's creativity. It's always creativity.
Yeah,
You get influenced though by stuff you listen to. Like, I was influenced on so much stuff, and once in a while you catch yourself. I think to comment on that, besides the fact that I think it's going to be flipped over on appeal, but besides that, there's only so much in chords themselves. There's only so many chords in the world. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, someone can say like, "Yo, that's this and this." I mean, that happens. If you did that with the intent, and in the intent without compensating somebody, then you're in the wrong. But if you just create music and that's what it is, man, it proves itself. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
because you're not gonna match it. The chances of you matching something exactly, it's just rare. It's just
And it's okay to be influenced by things, in my opinion. I think every form of creativity, there's no original thoughts, purely 100% original thoughts. Something was inspired by something else. And at some point, then it becomes about technicalities. And it's, are you inspired by it or did you steal it? And I think there are very clear-cut parameters for being inspired and stealing. And, the problem is, just to even touch on the blurred lines thing, when it's put in the context of something that finite and something that specific given to people who know nothing about music or creativity, and they're just purely, objective and not well-versed in it, they're going to hear it and go, yeah, that sounds like that. But if you ask, in a room full of professionals, I don't think anybody would have came back with that verdict.
yeah.
So it's one of those things where we all kind of understand what those lines and what those definitions are as far as stealing and copying and being inspired. And we understand it. And now, obviously,
It'll get changed, man.
A lot of the world doesn't understand it.
It'll be appealed. And
Yeah, I feel like it'll be
We'll
appealed.
be all laughing at it. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Right back there.
Good day to you all. My name is Joe Greenaway, and I'm from the Recording Arts program. This question is more directed to Mr. Leslie, but it's for all three of you. What motivated or inspired you to step foot in this industry, and when exactly did you decide this is what you want to do?
For me, it's just passion. I love music, and I've always loved music, and I've always loved. I think I had a passion for two distinct things. I had a passion for music, and I had a passion for taking things apart. And that was just me. When I was a kid, I would get anything, and it would be apart in a million pieces in like 5 minutes, and then I would challenge myself to put it back together. And I think that kind of molded my mind for the way my mind thinks and what draws me to mixing, what draws me to taking something that's a total mess and making it a masterpiece. And I think that's how I trained myself early. I would take my remote control cars apart and, like, you know, my mom would give me something for Christmas or something, and then it'd be in like a million pieces, and she'd be looking at me like, what the hell? And I'd be like, nah, I got you. And then I'll put it right back together. It's cool. It still works. You know what I mean? So for me, I think that element comprised with the fact that I just love music. I think it took me a while to figure out. When I got to high school, I figured out, oh, I can, you know, there's careers in this. And then coming to Full Sail Open House, from the moment that I decided to answer your question was when I came to Full Sail to the open house back in the day, and I was like, oh yeah, this is where I need to be. It's a whole bunch of other nerds that like what I'm doing. I'll do that, you know. So.
Yeah, no, I didn't get in there for all that, man. I just, you know, it just sounded appealing, you know what I'm saying? Started watching the music videos, like, damn, that looks pretty dope. They make how much money? Wow.
Right.
I mean, I had just different goals in life, and music was something that I always enjoyed kind of fooling with, but I had no idea about what jobs you could have in music. I knew a DJ, that's all I knew. I didn't know, and I figured out producer, because, like, I think Swiss is actually how I found out what a producer was. I kept hearing his name. I'm like, he's a producer. I'm like, what the hell does he do? He makes the beats. Oh, snap. That's dope. That's what I want to do. I want to make beats. I came here thinking this is a school to make beats. Like, no, you don't do that here.
Other ones here.
I swear to God, I went to the open house just like he did. I went to Studio A. I was like, oh, they make beats here. This is where it's at. Signed up, came to school, all that. First day of school, they like, nah, we don't. So when do we learn how to do that? We don't do that. What? Then I found out what an engineer was, and I was like, oh, okay, that sounds pretty dope. And then I just kept learning. The more I learned about it, the more I was intrigued by it, because it's like, man, the engineer is really the guy who controls what happens. Because without him, I mean, the producer didn't really, unless he was an engineer, he couldn't do anything. So that was that kind of inspired me. And then, you know, all the things that most of us want to achieve is financial freedom, having, you know, be able to do things in life, and all that stuff helped motivate me. So that was my inspiration.
I was just in bands, and I was the guy that had to kind of build the speakers so we could, you know, we couldn't afford a PA, so I was building speakers and everything, kind of got to be the technical guy, and then realized listening to records like, now who makes the guitar be over here on the left, and, you know, the kick drums sound like this, and what, and I figured out there was somebody that actually did that, and I was like, well, I suck playing guitar, so I'm definitely not going to be a good musician, so I kind of, that was always in the back of my mind to kind of be more on the technical side, and I would kind of got my way into going to visit some friends recording in studios around town, and like, oh man, I want to be that guy over there. I just kind of sit in the corner and watch the engineer. So,
how important do you guys feel? I don't mean like 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, but I mean the history of recording, the history of music, you know. Is it important to have listened to Sgt. Pepper? I mean, obviously, people can go through life, you know.
It's not important.
Yeah, so.
Unless if you want to study that, but it's not important to move forward. Like, you don't need to know music history to know where you want to go, because that's your history that you're developing. You don't need to know what everybody else has done. Like, when I first started working with Missy and Timbaland, I was shocked, because she would literally, like, come in and I'm like, yo, what are you listening to? Because I was so, like, how are you getting this? She's like, I don't listen to no radio. Like, then she started telling me stories, like, when she was coming up with Jodeci, they would literally stay in a basement in Rochester, and they couldn't listen. Devontae didn't let them listen to no music. So they didn't know what was going on. So they created all that because they weren't influenced by anything. So I was always from that premise. Like, I'll listen to something more for if I want to look for an inspiration thing, like with engineering, I did that a lot, where it was like a certain sound that I wanted, that I was like, people were like, yo, you're talking about this. You're talking about, you know, this kind of record. And I'm like, all right, I go listen to it and be like, oh, yeah, I guess it's kind of like that. But you don't need to hear that to know what you're going to do, because what you're going to do isn't going to be that. So, but that's my 2 cents.
No, I'm opposite. I like actually being, of course, I gotta be. I like the concept of, you know, no, I'm a bit of a, I wouldn't say a history buff, but I'm into the whole listening to old school stuff and, kind of getting a feel for where things were, how things have evolved. I like to make sure I'm kind of up on certain things, but it's I agree with Demo in one sense, which is I don't think it's critical to your evolution. I don't think it hurts, but I don't think you don't have to sit there and say, oh, you got to know everything about so-and-so, and you have to have heard so-and-so's album, and like Sgt. Pepper and da-da-da. I don't think they are critical pieces that everybody must have to have heard in order to progress in this thing. I think it's a very subjective topic, and for me, I do like being inspired by other things and, you know, the history of other things. But no, I certainly don't think it's mandatory.
I kind of agree with Leslie. I think it's great to go back and listen to classic records and like listen to so if the producer like it just gives you something that's just the track is like, okay, it sounds great, but he's got too much stuff. I was like, go back, listen to a Hathaway arrangement. Listen, it's arranged. So you work on your arrangement. I think it's good to be able to reference something like that and see how it's properly done where stuff fits. So I think it's good to be able to look at something with some kind of a reference, like a proper reference. So, but then again, you don't need that. But I think it's good to have that reference.
Yeah, I mean it's a question we get asked all the time. You know, what the relevance of maybe a piece is like that. You know, and I think you guys all answered it well, because it really comes down to what you said in the beginning. You know, it is the individual that's probably the more important thing than the big picture.
Hello, my name is Daniel Pinango, and really to me it's a pleasure to meet you. I want to ask you that earlier today you told us that bigger studios are becoming smaller facilities right now, and you're still finding jobs thanks to this. I want to know, how do you think will affect like the producer side and the engineer side of the work if this division keeps continuing, like in smaller facilities to smaller facilities, and at the end maybe it will be just the laptop of the person and nothing else?
Well, I think you're asking as far as job opportunities go, right?
Yeah.
I think for me now, there's more job opportunities now than there were when I started, if you ask me, because every producer has a facility, and all his producers need people to work with. So like one producer have like 10 people in them, and they all need to be recorded. So there's 10 engineer slots right there.
Yep.
That happened. So that wasn't like that when I first started. I just didn't. It wasn't around like it was then. It wasn't like Spanish, but it wasn't really in like pop and all those other formats. And so for me, if you're talking about job opportunities, I think there's more now than there was back then. Even though there might be less big facilities, there's still a lot of facilities, and there's a lot of people that make records that are selling a hell of a lot of records from their house or from an apartment. I mean, there's dudes I know that make records in hotel rooms while they're traveling on tour, and like people on buses. I mean, it's ridiculous where records are being made. So there's jobs out there. The idea that there's not jobs out there is a illusion.
I agree.
That is placed upon what all the negative people around you are telling you. Like, that's not true. Like, people been like, yo, the music industry's been losing money. I haven't lost money since I've been out of school. And I'm not the only, I can't be the only person, you know what I'm saying? So how's that possible? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's opportunities there for the people that go out there and get them and outwork everybody else. But if you sitting there crying about there ain't no job opportunities, while you doing that, the dude that's going, yo, this is a job opportunity, is getting the job opportunity. That's what all it comes down to. There's stuff out there. Like, don't come out of here like, oh man, I'm stuck. I'm gonna be stuck with this big ass bill, paying the school back. Like, yo, you pay it back. You just got to go out there and you got to get it. It ain't gonna come to you.
I'm gonna give you a perfect example. I posted about this the other night. For those of you that follow me on Facebook, I was in the studio the other night on a Saturday night, popping. It was artists in every room. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 rooms, including mine. Every room in that studio was full. Artists working, producers popping. Saturday night. And it was we have, I think, upwards of about 11 interns that, circulate through the system. There was one intern in that building all day long. So when the rest of those 10 or 9 people look me in the face and tell me, well, they don't feel like they have opportunities and I'm with Demo. You can't sit there and tell me ain't no jobs out there. Y'all just don't want it bad enough. You want everybody to do everything for y'all, and I'm not speaking specifically.
No, I'm speaking to y'all specifically. But if you're offended, then we talking to you.
There you go.
If you're offended, then no, I'm talking to you.
My man.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
If you get offended and you're sensitive, then we're talking to you.
But you want the opportunities to be handed to you, and you want, oh well, there ain't no more jobs out there, and you're crying about this and crying about that. But on a Saturday night, it's one person in this building, and then I consider myself certainly amongst them, I'm the most accomplished person. I'm in the building on a Saturday night, but you not. That's a problem. If I'm in the building, if I'm somewhere, if you're telling me, listen to this math. You want my job one day. You want my job. You want to do what I'm doing. You passionate about what I'm doing. But I'm there and you not. How that look? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's ridiculous to me. So I agree with Demo. The jobs are there. You just got to be resourceful and take them and go get them and work hard. Don't let nobody outwork you. You can't look me in the face and tell me you passionate about what you do and you want to do this, and then there's one intern there and the rest of y'all at home or in the club or doing whatever. Are you kidding me? And I got kids. I don't want all that. People give me excuses or tools of incompetence, and they build monuments of nothing. Like, I hate when people come to me with all this, well, I can't find work, and, I got kids. Nah, I got kids, too. But I figure it out.
Yo, it's the same. I'm telling you, it's the same issue. It's been ever since the first year this school was invented, the first month, the same first class, there was this group of people that was doing the same shit. Like, oh, man, there's only so many jobs. This is, like, not new. What y'all think you're hearing is not new.
Yeah.
It's been around forever. Like, I was the same people when I was in my same course, like graduating my same month. Like, oh man, I need to really figure out what I'm doing, and I think I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna do that. Like, while they were still figuring out, I was already working.
Yeah.
I made sure. Oh, wait, well, I ain't gonna get this job. I'm gonna make sure I get this job. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. They were sitting there still planning it out.
And complaining, and
I was 6 months in, they sending me emails like, yo, man, I think I might go back to my mom's house. Like, you should have been back at your mom's house 6 months ago.
Right.
Like, looking for the job you needed to get. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's the same thing. Those that sit back and on their heels, they gonna miss the opportunity. And there's opportunities. So if you think there is an opportunity, that's you just making up an excuse because you don't really want to succeed. But if you want to succeed, there's opportunities out there. But I'm telling you right now, if you think you're just gonna come in and you go sit down and you go start mixing Jay-Z or Madonna, you got like fucked up, because that's not how it works.
Real talk.
You gonna sit there, you gonna have to clean some floors. I'm telling you, I wish Trevor was here right now so he could vouch for this. That man had me paint that damn studio. I was paving parking lots. I was doing shit. I was sitting there like, man, is this legal?
Right.
Is this legal, what y'all doing right here? Like, I was like, man, this is some shit. I can't sue him because then I'm gonna get a job. I'm like, damn, this is incredible. Like, I ain't worked in a studio for months at a time.
Yeah.
They had me cutting grass, like, yo, real talk. My old man drove by, like, mind you, I dropped out of college. I had a promising career in front of myself in college to come do this. So you already know. I know your parents was tripping. Not all of you. Somebody felt in your family you was tripping for doing this, right? My pops, who thought I was crazy to begin with, I'm not gonna get into the story, but I had a very promising career already ahead of me coming out of school. Dropped that to come here. First note, he never is in North Miami Beach with the damn studio at. He just happens to be up there. Drives by the studio and I'm outside cutting grass. Like, imagine what that conversation was like.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you paid all this money? Like.
And to Demo's point, the thing is, the reason why we're sitting up here and some of our peers aren't, and some of the ones who were complaining aren't, it's not that we better than them. We worked harder than them.
No, we better. we better. No, I'm saying we better because we worked harder. That's why we better.
I was trying to be humble, but
I'm not being humble. The humble's out the door. We better because we outworked them.
It's my anger translator, right?
Yeah. Somebody got to say it.
You're right.
Say it.
You're right.
Carlton?
Yeah, question. I'll tell you, y'all in for a rare form.
Yeah, we got a question right here in the middle.
Where was it?
My name is Diego. I'm in the Recording Arts Project, and this is for three of you. I'm sure that everybody in this room has a studio brewing up at home or some kind of setup, and I'm going to assume you guys have your own setup at home. And I'm asking you, do you feel more comfortable working in the studio or in the privacy of your home with your setup?
Working at home is cool, but there's still something to be said about going to work and just getting away from the house. Because still, even though it's comfortable just to go in and start working in your pajamas or whatever, it's still something about getting up, walking out the door, driving, and then being focused about
and being around other creatives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, being in a building with other creatives really helps your creative juices. I think a lot of that question for me applies to where I'm in life. I have a family. I got a wife and kids, and at home I'm always daddy. You're never nothing cooler than daddy. You can't be your Grammys, and that doesn't mean anything at home. At home, I'm daddy, and at home, an emergency is Izzy won't let me play with her toy, and you know what I'm saying. So I can never. I'm daddy at home all the time, and so I have to separate myself from home to go to work, and be in that environment with creative people. Else, I'll just be daddy all day, and daddy, can you make me a sandwich? Can you watch Frozen with me? It never stops. So.
Man, I got a full-blown studio at my house. You wanna know how many times I turned that junk on? One time.
Right. Yeah.
One time.
It doesn't work.
To play my iPod. Console and all. Just yeah, if it depends, man. If you gonna work at home, work.
Right.
But don't spend money building something and then go to your boy's house to work. Like, save the money and then work at your boy's house.
Yeah, because we have friends. Leslie and I have friends. They've gone like way outside of Atlanta and they built their studio in their basement and everything. But then they kind of get out of the mix, and then they move back in town. Like, oh man, I'm so glad I moved back in town because I can run out to the studio when I'm way out in wherever Alpharetta or whatever. It's hard to come down and go to Patchwork or go to DARP, whatever, and be in the mix.
Because you get work from being around other creatives is not just for the creative element. Sometimes you get work. Some A&R be coming in to listen to. There's some other producers that work a couple doors down from me, and a guy came in there the other night to listen to some records. They were working on an artist, and then he saw me come out the bathroom and was like, "Oh, I'm glad I saw you. I need you to mix some records for me." He wouldn't have thought of me to mix the records for him. He would have just went to whoever else he was around at the time.
That
happens a lot.
Same thing happened to me with Holy Grail, with Magna Carta.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Tim in like 3 years. No, one day I was in New York. He was there. He was like, "Yo, come by the studio. I'm gonna say hi to Justin." I went by. Jay-Z's in there. He's like, "Oh shit, you mixing my record." If I would have never went there, I would have never got the record. So that there's something to say about being in an environment with other people that are doing creative stuff.
Just show up.
Yeah, just show up.
Question over here.
Hi, my name is Tawanda. I'm in recording engineering. The question is for all of you guys, basically. What made you choose Atlanta? Like, how will we know exactly where to go? Because like you were saying, the jobs are there, but it's like, how will you know what studio to go to try to intern to get that job? Because all of us, I know, are probably hungry for it, but we need to know how to get to that point. I mean, I don't know where studios are. Are they on the internet where you go look and say, oh, okay, this is where Dallas Austin studio is, or this is where Arista is, or Capitol, or whatever. Because I want to work for a big label. I don't want to work for.
See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. So, to answer your question, right? When I graduated from Full Sail, it was 1992. There was no internet. Okay. So, I found a way to figure out all the information that you just asked me.
We're the same age. I think we're the same age. You said 91. I came out of high school the same year you did.
Oh, okay. So.
Nah, he older.
So here's the thing. There's no magic answer to that question. The thing is, you have to be the driving force behind the information you get. You got to go find it. Go look. Go get it. You have the easiest, most efficient tool in the world, the internet. You can figure pretty much anything out on the internet.
And my next question.
Oh, uh-huh.
What made you pick Atlanta? Because some people are saying Atlanta's the spot to be now.
I hate Atlanta.
You said you hate it? And
I worked there one time at Patchwork, and I left. I said, I'm going back to Miami.
And some people tell me L.A. is the place to be. And I really, because Hollywood is Hollywood, I've always wanted to be there. and I've gotten attached to the warm weather now. So, which place do you think is better?
That's a subjective question. It's
Yeah.
based on your opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
all of us have different reasons why we chose. For me, I chose Atlanta because I didn't want to be in New York, and I didn't want to be in
I
LA.
definitely don't want to go to New York because it's
And
cold.
more so about the producer that I wanted to work for. I had my sights set on Dallas Austin.
Okay.
I read an article, I did some research, and I was like, oh, he's opening a studio. I'm going there.
Right.
So for you, it has to be your reason. It can't be our reason. You know, I could tell you, just like I love Atlanta. He hates Atlanta.
I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean that both of us have very successful careers.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that there's something about Atlanta that I need to convince him to like, and vice versa.
Right.
He hates it. I love it.
Right.
We're both successful at what
Thank
we do.
you, guys.
I mean, look, on that note, just to give you a different look on it. When I was here, I knew I wanted to work at the Hit Factory. I knew the Hit Factory was in New York. I was like, oh man, I can't go to New York. I have to pay this loan back. No way I could afford that. And then I found out they had Criteria in Miami. I was like, great, I'm going to my mom's house. Shit, that's fantastic. No rent. So that's what for me it was more. I mean, if it would have been having to go to Mississippi, because it made sense financially, because that's for me. You got to be able to live. I mean, shit. You know, so for me, that was an easy bet. Just went right back to my mom's. Or if I had a relative somewhere in Tennessee, I would have went there if I had an opportunity there. So it was what made sense. I personally, I mean, I like the people in Atlanta. I just don't like working in Atlanta. I don't find myself working. I find myself at the clubs. So I don't want to go there because I don't work. So that's why I hate it, because it's such a great place to go. But, but for me, you know, I love New York. For me, I always wanted to, like, that's where I felt like if you make it in New York, in the studio environment there, that was fair. But, you know, LA too. I mean, it's wherever you fit, where you feel you have an opportunity. If it's in Dark Horse in Nashville, then that's your spot. If it's, you know, CRC in Chicago, you have a cousin you can live with for a while and intern it. I mean, wherever you can get an opportunity, if you can make it work where you're not, you know, putting more pressure on yourself, then you.
And to touch on Demo's point, see, just like he said, he can't work there because he goes to the clubs and da-da-da. For me, that wasn't an issue because I don't go to clubs. You see what I'm saying? So it's all about your personality.
Personality, yeah.
I've been in Atlanta for, 20-something years, and there's clubs I've never been to in Atlanta. And anybody who knows me will tell you, I don't go out. I don't go to clubs. Nope. Well, I went one time for my birthday. But that's what I'm saying. That was like one time in 20-something years.
Yeah, I went there one time.
We'll move on to that question over there.
My birthday.
Hey, how are you? My name is Cesar, and I'm in the Recording Arts program. Hey. My question is for you, Demo. You mentioned that you have worked in doing more business and as executive, right? So how was that transition for you, like being a producer or an engineer, then going into that business aspect of the industry?
For me, I've always had, business has always been more natural for me. So it was actually a pretty easy transition. It came about because being that I was so responsible and had people throw responsibilities at me, and I would do so well in that environment, they would just keep throwing responsibilities at me. And before I knew it, it was like, yo, here's a $150,000 budget. Can you make this work? We need to get a demo for these 6 artists to present to so-and-so label. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay, we can figure this out. And so it was easy for me because I had a pretty decent business idea that I was able to work with. So now it's what I really spend most of my time doing. Is that I make records. I just did Madonna's whole record, so I still make records. I don't want you to think I don't make records. I just don't do it at the same velocity as I used to do it. Now I'm just same volume as I used to do it. Now I'm just more selective about it because I enjoy the challenge of having to do, I don't know if y'all know Sean. Y'all know Sean Spieler? He's another Hall of Fame graduate. Yeah, like me and Sean just came back from doing Ellen with Madonna, where he's her monitor guy and I worry about her broadcast stuff. So we literally just flew in from there. So that's a challenge for me because I'm in a whole different environment that I'm like, whoa, I'm in there, I'm like, shit, I have to understand how these people work, how, you know, how to speak to people, how to make sure how to get the point across or what I'm trying to get across. So that's refreshing for me. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My question is for you guys is genre of music. I'm a show production student, and I would love to do shows for hip hop, but is there also a point where someone signs you a check for music you never done before? How do you switch over to that, or are you going to take that job?
Trust me, you get that check, you're going to switch fast.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, yes, here we go. Bluegrass, whatever it is, you'll figure it out. They pay you, trust me, you'll figure it out. Or you'll get resourceful really fast. But you might be able to answer that better. What you think?
I mean, I've done some like classical gigs, like going and cutting strings, and you're like, you just gotta kind of figure it out and maybe just kind of do some quick research, and you're like, well, I know it sounds good, and I know some basic miking techniques, and you just kind of go and do it, and it's like it's only gonna make you grow to do something slightly out of your comfort zone. So yeah, I try to do something kind of out of my genre that I'm comfortable in every once in a while. So yeah.
Yeah, you want to get good at something, get yourself in positions that, I told this to somebody earlier, like put yourself in positions that you feel uncomfortable in.
Yeah.
Where you're sitting there sweating.
Yep.
And keep putting yourselves in that environment till all of a sudden you start going, you'll be like, man, it just comes natural. And then you go back and you'll see all the things you've learned from being in that environment. Definitely be uncomfortable if you have the luxury to be in that, you know? It's worth doing. Like if you don't listen to rock music, go to like a heavy metal. Like if you like into like Young Jeezy, go to like a death metal concert. And go into a mosh pit. It'll fuck your head up. You'll be like, yo. Like you think Bob Different's all off beat. You're just like, yo, it's nuts. But you'll have a new perspective on that genre, you know?
What he said.
Hey.
My name is David Shalhoub, and my question would be, it basically seemed like all you guys found work right after you graduated. How soon did you start reaching out to those labels to speak about internships?
I think if I remember right, I was advised that like I was in AS, so I think it was 13 months. So I was somewhere in the 8th month. At the time when I was there at 8 months, we had a class called Business Communication, which was all about how you did your resume. I didn't think about it to that point. And then I was like, oh, snap, like 5 months, 4 months from now, I got to start thinking about this. So once I learned that I had to do that, I made sure to start harassing everybody that could help me do that, because that was probably the scariest thing being here, like making that resume and like, damn, you're looking at it and you see your boy's resume, you're like, damn, he should look, he got like, his smells good. Like, how you did that? Like, he got nice paper and stuff. Like, I mean, it was ferocious. So stuff that people were doing, I was like, yo, I gotta really do something that's clever. So that's the great thing about being here, though. You have resources.
You got the resources. Get
The
to
resources
know your
are
career
here.
development people.
Yeah.
Tammy Elliott could tell you. She's one of the vice presidents now, but back then she was career development. I was in her office every day.
Oh, let me tell you something. Lunches, I ain't had no money, but I took out the lunches. Like, I have some chicken nuggets and shit. Like, I did whatever. My placement advisor, I was in her office every day. Every day. Like, if I could, I would have sent her flowers every day. Just tell her how great and how appreciative I am of everything she's doing for me.
Yeah.
Like, I made sure that she knew me by first name.
Yeah.
And, don't harass them, because then you piss them off, they ain't gonna help you. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a sense you just go in and make sure, that whatever you can to put yourself in a good position, you start, 8 months, 9 months, 5 months out is a good time to start.
Don't be a stalker. But
I think I graduated. I graduated on Halloween, and so during the summer, I was making calls to studios in Atlanta. The fall break, which was right around Labor Day, I was there in Atlanta the whole week, just going to studios, going to DARP, going to Doppler, all the different studios there, and saying, "Look, I'm gonna finish up, and can I have an internship?" And they're like, "Call me when you get in town. Call me when you get in town."
Yeah.
So as soon as I got in town, I showed up. I'm like, "I'm in town, so when can I start?" That kind of thing.
And Carlton's strategy actually works in the sense of, I've had tons of interns where they'll be in school still, and instead of taking the time on spring break to go hang out with their friends, they drove up to Atlanta to see, hey, I just want you to know I'm still in school. I'm just the fact that you just took the time to drive up just to show me that you're interested, that resonates with me. And then when you do get out of school, oh yeah, you're the kid that came up on your break. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff speaks to how bad you want it. You didn't go to spring break and go, party and fuck off your weekend. You drove up to Atlanta. And you were interested, and you're pursuing what you're interested in. So that strategy actually works well.
He just reminded me of something. And Hunter, I don't know if y'all know Hunter back here, but Hunter was actually my studio maintenance instructor. And he showed me something. That was on month 3. He showed me something that completely blew my mind and made me really see that. Because you think you can do everything, but there's so much more. He brought a candy bar. I mean, this was revolutionary when I saw it. But some dude had a candy bar with his resume on it. And I saw that, and I was just like, holy shit, I would never stand a chance against that damn candy bar.
Yep.
Like, the candy bar, there's nothing I could do right now. That candy bar is the truth. Like, imagine you get a candy bar, resume. I mean, so that's the kind of creativity that I don't ever really know what happened to that. But that person's a winner in my book. Whatever they did, they're winning.
Yep.
Because to think of, I mean, look, I'm talking about this 15 years ago, and I still remember that clear as day. Like, so if you have to do something, don't go crazy, but if you have to come up with a creative way to just make them remember you.
Yeah.
You know.
And I always say when I say that, what Demo just said, come up with a creative way to stand out. Come up with a creative way to make people remember you. Just like he just said, you don't have to go overboard. Sometimes it's the subtle things. Sometimes it's little things. You don't have to go crazy. Don't become like, crazy person.
No.
Yeah.
Please,
subtle things.
Please and thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Good question right here.
Hello again. My name is Melissa, and I have a sort of abstract with many questions in my question. But looking at the global music industry, for example, I grew up in Nigeria, and the pop music industry is really growing, but a trend that I noticed is some artists either traveling to different countries to record their videos or coming to the States to record their albums. So obviously there's a niche in the market for a big studio for professionals to go work at, but my question is how, if that is something that I wanted to fill, what advice would you give me? What level should I get to, or should I just focus on working with a studio?
Are you saying here or back in Nigeria?
Or in Nigeria.
No, back in Nigeria.
Back in Nigeria. This is the thing I'll tell you about that.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I'm in that side of the world quite a bit. The problem with Nigeria per se is that once you have something established, you're going to have a lot of people coming to you, and you're going to attract a lot of people that you don't necessarily want to get. Like, the demographic for the people that could actually work there is really small, because people have actually tried it before. Like Ginger Baker, in the 90s, had a phenomenal studio there that I'm sure if you know that, then you know the story of what happened there. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, because you could literally be throwing money in a bottomless pit. But if you go over there and you have a mobile recording, like a laptop or something you can record, and you want to record, I mean, you can't go wrong with, especially what's going on in Nigeria right now. The music there in Ghana, they're on top of it. As far as what's going on in West Africa, the music is crazy. And
to piggyback off of Demo's point, the thing about Nigeria is because in Africa, in most parts of Africa in the whole, but Nigeria especially, there is no infrastructure for the music business there. And that's the problem. So that's why you have situations where it gets out of control quick. And so you have to then approach it differently than you would here.
Yes.
Here there's a structure, there's an infrastructure.
Yeah.
You build a studio, they'll come, blah, blah, blah. But there is no musical blueprint for how the music industry works in Nigeria per se. It's a little... go ahead.
It needs to
I'm
be
sorry.
developed.
Yeah.
Well, then you're off to the races.
Yeah, you're off to the right start. Yeah,
Got a
but
niche.
what I'm saying is trying to approach how you would approach building and starting a studio here is not the way you do it in Nigeria.
No.
I.e., the example he just brought up, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I know the same thing he knows as well, where because there's a lack of structure, you can't approach it the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically it's just you build the studio, but you got to make sure you monetize the product that's going to be coming out of there. You're going to be able to charge people $500, $1,200 a day or whatever. If you build a studio, I hear about people wanting to build studios in Lagos all the time. People call, hey man, will your boy go over to Lagos and build a studio? I'm like, I'm sure for the right price, you know. And so I kind of hear that buzz quite a bit in Atlanta. People want to.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it. They did it in Kenya. Kenya has a facility that makes sense, but there's more of a structure in Kenya than there is. There's more of a structure in Kenya than there is in Nigeria, for sure. So, but if you figure it out, you got a niche. You're gonna be rolling in dough.
And if you really figure it out, call me. I'm coming.
Get a lawyer and an accountant.
Yeah.
Start there.
And build from the ground up. Don't go in too heavy. I don't know how much money you have access to or whatever the case may be. But my point is, and I'm sure Demo will tell you the same thing, Carlton will say the same thing. Don't go in there and just build the biggest facility ever and go nuts and start in over your head. Start small, work your way up.
Work your way up.
And based on what the market is giving you, that's how you make progress.
Yeah, we got one over here.
Sorry.
He's got the mic already.
Oh, we got one already? Okay. Go ahead.
Yep, there he is.
Hello, guys. Nice to meet you. My name is Carlos. So my question is, do you think that if someone has the experience but is studying here right now, is there a way around doing an internship? Like, could that person get a job in a studio, not doing the internship, or do you think that's the expected thing to do? That's the way to do.
I mean, hey man, you could come in and you sell yourself. It's how you present yourself.
Yeah, if you have a client base, even if you have experience, even if you're in school, if you had a client, some kind of client base established already, possible.
I mean, if you had client base, that'd help you. But if you didn't and you just had experience, well, you got to go pitch yourself to that studio manager that you're worth him paying you whatever engineering rate or not having to go through that process. I mean, yeah, you can do it. It's up to you though. I can sell myself now. When I came out of here, I mean, when I walked out of here, I swore that I was just like, I'm killing the league right now. I am no doubt that I can run a session. I can do everything. The way most of y'all feel right now, times 30, that's how I felt. Because I was just like, man, I know everything. And then the first 2 weeks, I realized I ain't no jack. And it's crazy because I wasn't even in the studio, but what I realized was I thought, I had this giant encyclopedia of knowledge that I had gained from here, and I realized that I really just had the table of contents down packed, and I had to go and keep developing it. So you might think that it might work, but you won't know until you get in there.
Yeah, just be careful because we've all seen it happen. Like somebody is like really gung ho and like, yeah, I can jump in the hot seat and do it, and I've just seen people like crash and burn, and that's followed them for a long time.
Yeah.
It's tough to recover from that.
I mean, listen, if you're that good and you got experience, you go in as an intern and you shouldn't have a problem moving up that quick if you have experience.
Exactly.
I mean, what you gonna lose? So.
Yeah.
We got time for one more quick question.
He's getting cheap on y'all.
My name is Cree. I'm in the recording arts program. I would be graduating in 3 months.
Congrats.
All right. And my question is, I have 2 questions. Why you guys didn't pick like the Limelight, like not being like a Timberland or something like that? And like, why is like your appearance really counter for like how you present yourself? Is it really like a problem in the industry ever? And my second question is for Demo. It like like me wanting to be a producer, how diverse do you need to be in like different instruments?
I don't play anything.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the
anything.
definition of the word producer.
I can program, but I don't play jack.
So you just do everything on the keyboard? And
yeah, I mean, I know all the best musicians. I just call them in and hum it.
Yeah.
I could whistle like you can't even imagine. So,
a musician and a producer is not always synonymous.
Yeah, no. If you play instruments,
not
fantastic.
always
Good
the
for you. If you could read music, even better. I mean, you could tell me. I mean, I'm just getting good now at key, where I understand, I can hear a key and because I know my limited singing range, I know, oh, okay, that's E. But that, I mean, no, you're just creative. So you just got to be able to be really creative and be able to get that out to everybody else around. So no, you don't have to do that. And to go to your first question, I want to.
What was the first question you said?
Why did you not choose the Limelight?
Why we didn't choose the Limelight?
Yeah,
I think that's a personality-based thing. I mean, for me, I'm just, and then it's based on what you're. For me, that answer is always going to rotate around what I was passionate about. If I was passionate about getting on the stage and being like Michael Jackson, that's what I would have pursued. I don't know how great I would have been at it, but I would have did my damnedest and gave it my damnedest try. But I was passionate about. It just so happens that what I'm passionate about is behind the scenes, and I didn't choose it for any other reason than passion. My whole spiel is always about passion, and for me, it just this is being behind the scenes is what I really love to do.
I just all my friends are like superstars and celebrities, so I just not all the people I hang out with at work are like that, and my friends that aren't, I really appreciate hanging out with them because it sucks when you go to the mall and all of a sudden you're sitting there and like, man, for like 30 minutes you can't make it to like the shopping center, whatever you're doing. So that's not appealing to me personally. But there's certain places that in certain environments where we get some of that at times.
And a lot of times it's not appealing to them. Like I know a lot of artists who
hate
really, they hate it. I mean, you got to think it sounds appealing when you're young and when you're aspiring, and then think of, every time you go out for a meal with your peoples or your family, you got somebody interrupting not just somebody. Imagine based on your fame. I mean, T-Boz from TLC, she's one of my really good friends. And just like Demo said, I've been places with her where it's freaking annoying. But that's her job. She's a celebrity. And if we're sitting there eating dinner as a family with her mom and da-da-da, and it's 20 people coming up to her asking, can they take a picture? There's never a moment for yourself. So a lot of times they don't even like it. So it looks appealing.
Look, I'll tell y'all straight up. If you have a choice between the fame and the money, take the money.
Take the money.
Forget the fame. Let the dummies have the fame.
Take the money.
Take the money. Yep. The money's where to go. They don't trust me. It's not the same. It's not. People think it is, but it's not. Like, you don't want unless you're an artist. If you're an artist and that's what you're trying to do, then great, then that works. I've never had any appeal to do that.
Go ahead.
I mean, I played on stages. I was on Justin's tour, Future Sex Love Show, where me and Timbaland played the intermission every night in front of 20,000 people, and that just wasn't appealing for me. I just didn't. It was fun doing it as the experience, but that was like that's a one-time thing. I won't do it again. It's not what I'm into. So.
And then some people, it's just their personality. Like Carlton, he's just a laid-back guy. I can't imagine Carlton being an artist
or any kind of center of attention.
Yeah.
I've always been. I don't like that, and I don't have talent, musically. So I was like,
well, that sucks for you this weekend.
I'm going to be over here, and
it's all about you, buddy.
Do the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Oh boy, wait till you see what they got in store for you on Friday.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're in for it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Let's give a big round of applause for Carlton, Demo, and Leslie. And thank you guys for coming. Hi again, and we're here at Full Sail University, and we're going to join some of our online guests for a special on-air moment, and we're going to ask the panelists a couple of extra questions here. So for all three of you guys, one of our online guests wants to know how long it took you guys to advance in your careers. Carlton?
How long it took me to advance? Well, I actually started getting paid. Luckily, I was very lucky. Started getting paid within like 3 or 4 months. And to advance, that's a subjective question. I assisted for maybe 2-3 years before I started really getting engineering gigs. So, you know, I've seen people intern for a year before they started getting paid. I got lucky. I think maybe a good 3 or 4 years is when I really, I say advanced, but you know, it's a very subjective question. So.
Well, I felt like I advanced right away, being that I had things lined up when I graduated. I already had things lined up. I had job interviews. I had potential studios that I could work at. I also had potential things locally that were helping me to get better at my craft. So I felt right away that, you know, it's very subjective, but right away I felt like I was moving in the right direction. I got my first job out of school a month in, so yeah, and after that it just kept growing. So it all really, I guess, was circumstance, timing, and a little bit of the work I put in.
And for me, advancing for me was just as simple. I got out of school, I interned for a few months, less than a year, and then I just I was moving up the ranks pretty quick as an assistant. And within, you know, I graduated in '92, and I mixed my first #1 chart-topping platinum single in '94. So I was well on my way, you know, as far as the advancement department. But you know, it's all different for everybody. Don't judge your pace just based on what one person does. We all move at different paces.
So our next question is what you guys particularly do to get the creative juices flowing. Is there anything in particular, anything uncommon that you guys do?
I'm very consumption motivated, so I have to have coffee and some kind of snacks. So that's what, if I have that kind of surrounding me, and then I'm in my work mode. So I have to have. That's what I do.
I wake up.
I'm motivated by violence, so I play Battlefield, I play Call of Duty, I'm a video gamer, I'm a gamer, and I have to have violence. I'm a sniper, I have to shoot you in the head, and then I can get my mix going. If I shoot a couple 8-year-olds online, then yeah, and I don't shoot 8-year-olds, I shoot the characters that the 8-year-olds are playing with. Okay, I just had to clarify that for legal purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so our final question is, you know, what steps you guys took before you graduated? Who did you talk to get the process started?
I think we were talking about this earlier. I basically, a few months before I graduated, just got on the horn, called studios and say, look, I'm planning to come down to Atlanta. Can I do an internship? And can I come by the studio and see you? Like, for instance, I went on a Labor Day fall break from Full Sail. So I went and just made my rounds to studios that I was interested in Atlanta, and just, you know, showed up, showed my face and say, look, I want to come work for you guys for free. And most of the time they would say, yeah, well, we're happy to have you. Just call me when you're in town. And that's what I did. I called people. And Dallas, he had the coolest studio. So it was like a Beetlejuice set. So.
For me, I just sent out resumes to a bunch of different places. And I sent, I think, about 8 resumes out. And I got 3 callbacks. So that's pretty much what I did. And then I stayed on those studios. And then I made sure while I was going through that process that I had other things in case that didn't work out to give me time to figure out what the next step was. So I was messed up.
And for me, while I was in school, I camped out in Tammy Elliott's office. At the time, she's now the vice president, or one of the vice presidents. At the time, she was career development, and I gravitated to my career development person, and I stayed there. And like Carlton, instead of going on vacation with my friends, I took trips to studios, and I used my vacation time to go interview and go check out studios and let people know I was interested in working for free.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it. Thank you guys for participating in our Full Sail on-air moment, and we hope to see you next time. Have a great day.